everybody, Dana Litwin here again, and welcome back to Tuesday Tips for Leaders of Volunteers. This week, talking about volunteer burnout. We've talked about burnout for ourselves as professionals leading volunteer programs and even sometimes other kinds of staff burnout, but volunteer burnout is its own issue and it can't be solved in quite the same way. Volunteers generally don't get PTO. Volunteers, I can be a team leader. That's fantastic. And just as hopefully you would for a paid member of your team, if someone in the volunteer team or talent pool is taking on more responsibility, is there a way that you can share some of their other responsibilities or get other volunteers to contribute and pick up so it's not just piling onto them? We, as leaders of volunteers, we spin a lot of plates, we wear a lot of different hats, we have to do a lot of things, and I think sometimes it's too easy to unconsciously put those burdens of extra tasks that we're getting onto our volunteers. Now, that's not to say that very competent people can't do lots of things, but if you have seen kind of a drop-off of work quality on a team or an individual, if you're noticing that more people have just dropped out without communicating with you, have just stopped coming and stopped doing work, then that's a red flag. That's a sign that something is going on, something deeper is going on with their treatment, how they're being treated by other team members, other staff members. Something's going on in their personal or their own work lives as volunteers. And it's important to have proactive communication and kind of get ahead of these issues and let volunteers know that if they need time off, and ideally write this into your policy in your volunteer handbook and program manual, but allow volunteers the grace and the compassion to take time off. Of course, take sick days. We don't want anyone paid or volunteer coming in when they're sick, especially during COVID and flu and cold surges that are happening in the fall. And really just have that compassion, that communication, and that understanding in place that if people need to take time off as volunteers, that's going to happen, and it's may or may not be any of our business to ask why, but at least if you have a culture of communication and feedback, both individually and for people working on projects and in teams together, that someone else on that team, someone else in the volunteer talent pool can maybe step in while someone needs to take a leave of absence, whether that's just personal life, busyness, work, or medical things, and kind of set up that safety net for all involved. I've talked before in other videos about how you can delegate things to volunteers, and I do still encourage that, but be aware that the biggest sign of volunteer burnout is people just stop working with your organization and stop showing up, especially if they feel like they've tried to communicate challenges or issues or that they need to take time off and they've been given an ultimatum of you work with us or you don't work with us. So kind of check your policies, check the culture, check in with everyone, take good care of yourselves, take good care of your volunteers. And if you enjoy this video, please hit the like button, subscribe to this channel if you are not yet part of the Cool Kids Club, and we'll see you next week with more Tuesday Tips. Take care.